Everybody, and assalamu alaikum. My name is Dr. Shahid Kamal. I would like to introduce myself. I'm going to start a YouTube channel, and I would be giving talks on many different subjects at various time. My name means Shahid. Shahid in Arabic means witness. And the purpose of this video is to actually return my experiences to the world and let people benefit from it. As somebody said, a person who does not read book, he spends a single person's life, and a person who read books, he spends 100 person's life, which is an example. Of course, it's a metaphor. It also reminds me of the fact that computers are becoming so powerful and they may one day perform better than humans. It has always been a debate whether computers can outbeat humans or not. The problem is that you can feed as much as data as you want to in computer's memory. So computer may have experience of 1,000 people's life or billions people's life, and therefore they can put up a better algorithm or analysis of any given situation. I'm a psychiatrist by profession. I was a family physician for a long time, and a lot of videos which will be coming further down would be on mental health issues. Mental health issue is a subject very dear to me. I think there are a lot of emotional suffering in the world going on because of ignorance. And during the talk, I will give numerous examples. My interests are varied. I'm interested in anything which helps human being. As you could have gathered by now, I like to travel. So far, I have been to 32 countries of the world, and I can speak 5 languages. I'm very much interested in sociology, anthropology, evolution, not only biological, but cultural evolution, development of human civilization. I have worked in prison setting for a very long period of time. I have worked in many different settings, which is actually a very valuable tool in the field of mental health. During coming lectures, I will be talking about a lot of mental health issues. At this point, I want to make a disclaimer that none of my advice would constitute a medical advice and would not constitute a doctor-patient relationship. It would just be what I believe is true. People may differ from it and may not agree with it, which is fine with me. Nobody has to agree. But this is something, a reflection of my own thinking, how I view different subjects. I would like to emphasize at this point of time that the brain and computers are very similar in work. It is amazing. And I don't know whether it was on purpose or it was an accident, but computers work very much like human brain. When we are born, our brain is just like a new computer with no data on it. So it is like a plain piece of paper. And as soon as we are born, our sensations start working and we start gathering worldly data from our 5 sense of perceptions, including touch, hearing, smell, and so on. And then gradually, our brain starts collecting data. Now, there is some discussion. Some people may even say that even when the fetus is in uterus, they may even be able to hear things or may gather information. Which is still very much open to discussion. In any case, as we grow into many different spheres. So we grow cognitively in terms of physical height and weight. We grow spiritually. We grow emotionally. we grow in many different directions, and all our knowledge of the world is derived from our environment. It is very, very important that a child is born in a safe environment. Of course, we don't choose our parents. I'll give you an example. If a child is born where mother is a school teacher and dad is a state employee, versus a child who is born where mother is a drug addict and dad is in prison. Now, a child is born in a teacher's house, he or she is, so to call, is born with a silver spoon. And that child is much more likely to develop more healthy traits than the child who is born in a drug addict's house. Now, it all seems very logical and obvious, but the fact is that our early childhood plays a lot of role in our future and for our whole life. There is a saying in psychiatry that we are all product of our past experiences. So what I am today reflects my past experiences. What you are today reflects your past experiences. That is why it is said that even if you clone two humans who will be biologically totally identical, they will yet be two different persons because their growth or their memories would be different. I would like to give you an example here. Suppose you buy a seed or a small plant and put it underground and then forget it. Can you expect that seed or plant to grow into a beautiful tree and bring beautiful flower? Of course not, because the plant has been neglected. The plant, unless you water the plant regularly, the plant is exposed to sunshine, the plant is given fertilizer, and plant is well taken care of. So there are certain optimal conditions which requires to be met for a plant to grow healthy. If you apply the same analogy for children, there are certain optimal conditions which are required for a child to grow into normal human adult. One of the most important requirement is meeting the child's basic needs. For example, when the child is crying, the child is fed in proper time. When the child is wet, their diaper is changed in regular time. So the child develops something called a basic trust, which means that this world is a safe place. When the child is growing, he or she is very much dependent on their parents. So over and over again, we hear that our first 3 to 5 years is very important for our future growth and what we would be in future. I once read a billboard which says that even ignorance is a form of a child abuse. So the child requires certain optimal conditions to grow. Unfortunately, we don't have the real idea about the magnitude of child neglect, let alone active child abuse. The children are sometimes abused physically, they are abused emotionally, they are even abused sexually. And all these early abuses, they not only affect emotionally, they can also impair the development of neurological pathway and neurological connections in the brain. In my experience, during working in prison years, I came across a lot of people who were so-called serial killer or people who had no emotion. And in my own experience, I thought that a lot of them have underlying brain injury. The brain injury may be prenatal before the child is born, if the mother has used drugs or alcohols, or if the mother was severely ill, It could be due, or if the mother had hypertension and other physical diseases. It could be during the process of childbirth as having oxygen deprivation for whatever reason. It could be postnatal, like having very high amount of bilirubin or jaundice untreated. It could be due to aseptic viral meningitis or many other subtle injuries which were not noticed at that time. I personally believe in no evil. I do not think that anybody is born evil, but yes, they can be damaged or traumatized. I would also like to give an example here. If you are working on a production line of a factory which produces camera or which produces computer or produces cars, at the end of the production line, there is a quality control supervisor who has a checklist which every product has to meet, and he goes through the checklist making sure that the products meet the criteria. And if for some reason the product does not meet the criteria, what he does is that he puts a cross mark on the product and writes damaged good and puts for recirculation. The product does not come to the market. If you apply the same example on human beings, there are a lot of human beings which are damaged human beings. But every human being has to live their life. And so as to say they have to come to the market, but they have already been subjected to a lot of damage and trauma which will remain with them all their life. These, in my opinion, the majority of psychiatric patients who come to psychiatric clinics are not having major biological psychiatric illness such as bipolar or schizophrenia. They do constitute a big portion, but believe me, the majority of psychiatric patients are damaged human beings. And we have to deal with them, and we have to try to rehabilitate them. And I have a lot of sympathy for people who suffered because of any of their fault. Because as far as a child is concerned, as long as we are 12 to 14 years of age, we don't even know what is going on around us. At this point of time, I would like to introduce another concept, which is Freud's biggest contribution, or Freud is known because of that, which is the concept of consciousness, subconsciousness, and unconsciousness. I think it is very, very important for us to have some idea what are those, because they play a big role in our life, either consciously or unconsciously. So let me give you their definition in simple, plain English. Consciousness is something which is in our awareness. Like, for example, if I ask you, what is your name? And you will tell me your name, XYZ, whatever is your name. You don't even have to think about it. So that is consciousness. Now, we believe that the consciousness has a limited storage space. Now, what happens when the space gets filled? That memory is transferred to a deeper structure, which is called subconsciousness. Now, subconsciousness is also a small space which lies on top is consciousness, then subconsciousness, and then unconsciousness. In subconsciousness lies memories which are not immediately available to us, but can be retrieved with some effort and concentration. Like, I may ask you that what were you wearing on your last birthday? Or any other question, and with some effort you may come up with the answer. Now, we believe that subconsciousness also has a limited storage space. Now, what happens when subconsciousness is filled? It is pushed down further to a space called unconsciousness. Now, these are all hypothetical considerations. Unconsciousness is a space which we believe has unlimited storage space.